Ladies and gentlemen, gather around because what you're about to hear is the most explosive morning television moment in British history that nobody in the mainstream media dares to talk about properly, yet millions have already watched the clip circulating underground. It was supposed to be just another cozy November morning on ITV's Lorraine show in 2025, the kind of gentle, fluffy chat that Lorraine Kelly has built her entire career on, smiling, nodding, sipping tea, and letting celebrities plug their latest projects without ever pushing too hard. But on this particular day, the guest was none other than Dame Emma Thompson, the double Oscar-winning national treasure who has never been afraid to speak her mind on everything from climate change to feminism to the absolute state of British politics. Emma arrived in great spirits, looking effortlessly elegant in a tailored navy suit, her hair perfectly tousled, laughing with the crew backstage as she always does because everyone knows she's genuinely one of the warmest people in the industry. Lorraine welcomed her with that trademark Scottish warmth, calling her our Emma and gushing about how much she adored Matilda the musical and how Emma is basically the queen of British acting. The first few minutes were pure sugar. They talked about Emma's new Apple TV series, her grandchildren, even shared a laugh about aging gracefully in Hollywood. The audience at home was loving it. Tweets were pouring in saying how refreshing it was to see two intelligent women just having a proper chat. But then, without any warning, Lorraine decided to go down a road that nobody, literally nobody, expected her to take on live morning television. She brought up Emma's very public and very passionate criticism of the current Labour government, specifically Keir Starmer's handling of the winter fuel allowance cuts for pensioners. Now everyone knows Emma has been vocal about this. She's done interviews with The Guardian, appeared on Newsnight, even posted lengthy threads on Instagram calling it disgraceful and a betrayal of the elderly. But Lorraine, perhaps thinking she was being clever or edgy or trying to get a viral moment, phrased it in the most provocative way possible. She said, and I quote verbatim from the unedited footage that leaked later, "But Emma, love, don't you think you are being a bit hypocritical? You're sitting here in your multi-million-pound mansion, flying private jets to film sets, telling working-class pensioners how to feel about losing 200 quid while you're worth 50 million? The studio went deathly silent. You could actually hear the floor manager gasp off camera. Emma's smile froze, then vanished completely. This wasn't the gentle Lorraine. Everyone knows this was something else entirely. What happened next would go down in television infamy and change how people view both women forever. Emma Thompson didn't shout at first. That's what made it so chilling. She put her teacup down very deliberately, looked Lorraine straight in the eyes, and said in that crystal clear, aristocratic voice that can cut through any room, "I'm sorry, Lorraine. Did you really just come for my money on national television while you're sitting there earning £2 million a year to ask celebrities what their favorite color is?" The audience in the studio audibly gasped. Lorraine tried to laugh it off, doing the thing she always does where she touches her chest and says "Och no." But Emma wasn't having it. She continued, "I've spent 40 years of my life campaigning for the most vulnerable in society. I've given millions to charity. I've marched in the rain for causes you wouldn't dare touch because you're too busy protecting your ITV contract. And you have the audacity to sit there in your taxpayer-funded studio and accuse me of hypocrisy because I happen to be successful at my job?" Lorraine's face changed and the mask slipped completely. She went from bubbly auntie to something much harder, much more defensive. She interrupted Emma, saying, "Well, hang on now, love. I'm just asking what viewers are thinking. People in the real world are struggling and they see celebrities like you lecturing them." But Emma was on fire now. She leant forward and said, "The real world? Lorraine, when was the last time you took public transport? When was the last time you worried about heating your home? You live in a £5 million house in Buckinghamshire. Your daughter just bought a £1 million flat in London that you helped pay for. And you're going to lecture me about understanding working-class struggles?" The crew were panicking. You could see the floor manager making frantic cut-to-break signals, but Lorraine waved him off because she thought she could still control this. She made the fatal mistake of going personal. She said, "Well, at least I don't pretend to be something I'm not. At least I'm honest about who I am. Unlike some people who write children's books while swearing like troopers in real life." That was the moment Emma Thompson became legendary. She laughed, But it wasn't her normal warm laugh, it was cold, dangerous. She said, "Oh darling, I've never pretended to be anything. I'm exactly who I say I am. But you've spent 30 years creating this nice Scottish lady persona while actually being one of the most calculated operators in television. We all know you hate doing the morning show. We all know you think you are above it. But you'll keep smiling for that paycheck until they wheel you out dead." The silence that followed was deafening. Lorraine's mouth actually opened and closed like a fish. What made this exchange so devastating was that Emma wasn't shouting, she was surgical. Every word was perfectly placed, perfectly timed, delivered with that impeccable comic timing she's famous for, but weaponized into something lethal. Lorraine tried to recover by saying, "Well, I think we're getting a bit heated here, maybe we should." But Emma cut her off with, "No, Lorraine. Let's not pretend this is about getting heated. This is about you deciding that today was the day you were going to try and take down Emma Thompson for ratings, because your show's been bleeding viewers to this morning for years." The studio audience started slow clapping, actually slow clapping for Emma. Someone in the front row shouted, "You tell her, Emma." And it spread. Lorraine was visibly shaken now. She made one last desperate attempt, saying, "I think you'll find that people at home agree with me, that celebrities should stay out of politics." And Emma just looked at her with pure pity and said, "Lorraine, the fact that you think celebrities should stay out of politics while you yourself have spent years cozying up to the royal family and taking knighthoods and damehoods for services to light-away television tells me everything I need to know about your principles." Then came the moment that broke the internet. Emma stood up, unclipped her microphone herself, didn't wait for anyone to do it for her, looked directly into the camera and said to everyone watching at home, especially the pensioners who are cold this winter because this government and people like Lorraine who refuse to hold them to account have abandoned you. You deserve better than this. You deserve better than being told to be grateful for crumbs while the rich get richer. And Lorraine, you should be ashamed of yourself for using your platform to attack someone who actually tries to make a difference instead of just treating an autocue for 40 years. She walked off set while the entire crew stood and applauded her. Not polite clapping, a proper, enthusiastic applause. Lorraine was left sitting there alone, staring at the empty chair, while the show cut to an emergency break 3 minutes early. The adverts that played were for funeral plans and stairlifts, and the irony was excruciating. When they came back, Lorraine was pale and shaking, trying to laugh it off by saying, "Well, that was certainly lively, wasn't it?" But her voice was cracking and everyone could see she'd been absolutely destroyed. Within minutes, the clip was everywhere. Not just in the UK, everywhere. American morning shows were playing it. French news was discussing it. Even Russian state television used it as an example of Western liberal infighting. XA completely exploded. Emma Thompson was trending worldwide within 15 minutes, with over 2 million tweets. But here's what was fascinating: it wasn't divided down political lines like you might expect. Yes, the usual suspects were calling Emma a champagne socialist and saying she couldn't take criticism, but the overwhelming response was support for Emma. Working class people, pensioners, nurses, teachers, they were all posting things like, "Finally someone said it and Emma Thompson spoke for all of us." Even people who don't particularly like Emma's politics were saying that Lorraine had been completely out of line and unprofessional. The Daily Mail tried to spin it as spoiled actress storms off in tantrum, but their own readers turned on them in the comments, calling it the most satisfying television moment since Gordon Ramsay swore at that chef. The Guardian called it the most class-conscious moment in daytime television history. Someone made a supercut of every time Lorraine has interviewed actual members of the royal family with softball questions and set it to Emma's takedown. It got 20 million views in 24 hours. Most deliciously of all, Lorraine's own viewers, her core demographic of middle-aged women who have watched her faithfully for decades, were turning against her. The Lorraine Facebook page was flooded with comments like, "I've watched you for 20 years but after today I'm done, and Emma was right. You've become everything you pretend not to be." ITV issued a statement saying they regretted the confrontation and that Lorraine had been trying to represent viewer questions, but it fooled nobody. Behind the scenes, sources say Lorraine was in floods of tears in her dressing room, screaming at her producers for letting it happen, while Emma was in her car on the way home laughing with her agent and saying, "Well, that felt good." By the evening, Bookmakers had stopped taking bets on Lorraine leaving the show before Christmas because it had become such a certainty. Schadenfreude has never tasted so sweet. The aftermath just kept getting better. Celebrities who'd been sitting on their own Lorraine horror stories for years suddenly felt brave enough to speak out. One actor who will remain nameless said Lorraine had reduced his wife to tears off camera by making snide comments about her weight. Another said Lorraine had refused to interview them because they supported Scottish independence and she didn't want to upset viewers. Even Piers Morgan, who hates everyone, tweeted that Emma Thompson just did what we've all wanted to do for years. Good for her. The most devastating blow came from Lorraine's own colleagues. Susanna Reid liked several tweets supporting Emma. Eamon Holmes posted a crying laughing emoji under the clip. Ruth Langsford shared it with the caption "Sometimes the truth hurts." And then the ultimate humiliation. Philip Schofield, who hasn't been seen on television since his scandal, posted a video of himself watching the clip and literally standing up to applaud at the end. The man who was cancelled by ITV was applauding the woman who just destroyed their biggest star. ITV tried to save face by offering Emma the chance to come back and clear the air, but her response was reportedly 2 words, the second of which was off. Advertising revenue for Lorraine's show plummeted as brands pulled out, not wanting to be associated with the toxicity. The episode where it happened became the most watched piece of television content in Britain that week, beating even the football. Someone set up a GoFundMe called "Buy Emma Thompson a Drink" and it raised £87,000 in 3 days, which Emma immediately donated to pension or fuel poverty charities with a statement saying this one's for Lorraine's viewers who deserve better than being patronized every morning. The Sun tried to get a comment from Lorraine's camp and were told she was taking some time to reflect with her family. Translation: she was hiding in her mansion having a nervous breakdown while her agent desperately tried to salvage her career. Ofcom received more complaints about that single episode than about any other television moment in 2025, but interestingly, most of them were complaining about Lorraine's behavior, not Emma's. The regulator actually had to issue a statement saying they couldn't investigate because Emma hadn't broken any rules. Telling the truth isn't against broadcasting standards. Looking back, this moment will be studied in media classes for decades as the exact point when daytime television died. Lorraine Kelly represented the old guard, smiling through anything, never rocking the boat, maintaining the illusion that celebrities and presenters are all just having a nice chat while actually everything is carefully controlled and corporate. Emma Thompson represented something new, someone who has nothing left to prove, no more award she needs, no more approval she's seeking, who can therefore speak absolute truth to power without fear. She didn't storm off in a tantrum like a spoiled starlet. She dismantled her interviewer with surgical precision and then left with her dignity intact while the other woman was left exposed as exactly what she was. The most telling part, Emma hasn't spoken about it since. Not one interview, not one comment, nothing. She doesn't need to. The clip speaks for itself. Meanwhile, Lorraine has been desperately trying to claw back public affection with increasingly pathetic Instagram posts about her dog and her garden, but the comments are brutal. People just posting teacup emojis and quotes from Emma's takedown. Her ratings have collapsed so badly that ITV is reportedly planning to replace her with someone younger and cheaper in the new year. The Queen is dead. Long live the actual Queen. Dame Emma Thompson, who proved that sometimes all it takes is one person refusing to play the game anymore to bring the whole rotten edifice crashing down. And for those of us who have watched morning television patronize and infantilize its audience for decades, watching Emma Thompson verbally eviscerate Lorraine Kelly wasn't just satisfying, it was cathartic. It was justice. It was the moment when someone finally said what we've all been thinking for years, that these people aren't our friends having a chat in our living rooms. They're millionaires performing a carefully constructed act for money, and when someone refuses to pretend anymore, the whole illusion collapses. Emma Thompson didn't just walk off Lorraine's show that day, she burned the entire set down on her way out, and we're all warmer for it. Thank you, Dame Emma, from the bottom of our cold, fuel allowance cut hearts. Thank you.